The second commandment of a growthpreneur is thou shalt treat marketing like it's an extension of sales. See, most small business owners, they don't treat marketing like an extension of sales. In fact, most businesses of any size, they tend to make this crucial mistake. As a result, there is a disconnect between the marketing department and the sales department. Or if you're a smaller business, the marketing team and the sales team, or the marketer and the salesperson. Sometimes that's you, right? If you're a solopreneur, there's a disconnect between your marketing messages, like what's in your landing pages and in your ebooks and in your ads, and what the sales conversation sounds like on the phone. But that's not where it ends. When there is a disconnect between marketing and sales, guess what happens? Opportunities are lost. You worked so hard to get opportunities in through the door, and they just evaporate and drop into nothingness. So it's kind of not really your fault, because marketers, they tend to talk about marketing like it's the be-all and end-all to all business problems, right? In fact, I think even salespeople tend to talk about sales as though it's the be-all and end-all to all business problems. And it's just not true. You really do need to treat marketing and sales like it's one journey, because that is how the buyer sees it. The buyer sees it as one continuous journey. Now, it's not always linear. Sometimes the buyer goes through the website and then goes to ads and does a squiggly thing and then goes somewhere else and comes back again, talks to a friend. It's not always linear, but generally speaking, the phases they go through is the awareness phase, and then the consideration, and then a decision phase, and then from decision into, if they become a customer and they're really happy, they go into a referral phase. So I want to give you 3 frameworks that you can use to kind of unify this whole process. And the frameworks that you want to use are: number 1, treat marketing and sales as though it were the revenue pathway. Think of it as revenue pathway. If you are head of sales, or if you're head of marketing, and that's how you see yourself as the business owner, change that label and see yourself as head of revenue. Now, I know people say that revenue is vanity and profit is everything, right? And I get that. But if there's no fuel in the car, I don't care what you call it, the car isn't going anywhere. Revenue is important. So the first framework you need to be using is thinking of marketing as pre-sales, or what happens before the sales process. I know that sounds obvious, but it's part of your sales. I mean, somebody once said that if you could sell one-to-one to millions and millions of people at the same time, you would. But since you can't, there's marketing. Okay, so really it is just selling when you can't turn up to every single conversation one-on-one. But it is the same conversation, and that's the important thing. Number 2, think of your prospects and your buyers as going along a pathway of cold to warm to hot. Another way of saying that is from stranger to friend to fan. Okay, so cold, warm, hot. Imagine you had no marketing, no digital marketing, and you had to call everybody from scratch. The first call that you make will be cold. It will be a cold call. And then ideally you would set up another call, maybe a discovery call, where you could dive deeper into goals and pains of the prospect. And that will be a slightly warmer call. Ideally, at the end of that call, you would have a really hot call, as in they're hot to buy. They are honest, open, and transparent with you, and they're ready to go. Now, take the word sales out of it, and what do you have? You have a conversation that is to a cold audience, a conversation that is to a warm audience, and a conversation that is to a hot audience. Now, let's say you run an e-commerce store and everything you sell is online and there is no salesperson. The traffic, the people coming in online will go from cold conversations, like an ad, to warm conversations, like perhaps a discount or a newsletter subscription, to hot, which is a purchase. Do you notice how when you take away the labels of marketing and sales, essentially it's the same thing, cold, warm, hot conversations. Second framework for you to use is to think of all of your conversations, be it marketing or sales, as a cold conversation, a warm conversation, and a hot conversation. And the third framework for you to use is to be your buyer. Put yourself in the shoes of your buyer and take yourself through the journey of a stranger into a warm conversation with your business, first contact, and then maybe converting on a landing page, downloading a helpful offer or a discount, into being really ready to enter into a purchase decision. So if you were to think about it that way, then it starts to become more obvious the kinds of conversations that you need to be having and the kind of marketing messages, sales messages that you should be having to a cold audience, which is different to a warm audience, which is certainly very different to a hot audience. Don't try and close the deal, have a hot conversation with a cold audience. I'll say it again. Don't try and have a hot conversation with a cold audience. Don't propose with the wedding ring on the first date. It will not go down well. You know, the stats show us that 15% of the people visiting your site or coming into contact with your business will buy immediately. 85% will buy in the next 2 years. That is to say, of everyone that will buy, 15% will buy now, 85% will buy later. So you kind of got to factor that in when you're having these conversations that live in marketing land and then also live in sales land. Some will happen immediately and is more of a sales conversation, hot. Some will happen later and right now they're cold and warm, but that's okay. So those three frameworks are: treat marketing like it's an extension of sales. 2, think of conversations as cold, warm, hot. And number 3, put yourself in the buyer's shoes. Now, we have a tool to map those conversations to the journey, to the buyer's journey. It's called the FFFunnel. And it carefully crafts the conversation for a cold audience, which is about the why they should think about your business, and a warm audience, which is like the what, and a hot audience, which is like a how to get started. If you'd like to get your hands on the FFFunnel template, as well as the other 10 commandment videos, click the link below. Ciao for now, this is Justin Theng, and I'm signing out.